Today we're going to talk about why ditching an ex can actually make you more attractive to them in the post-breakup period. Now, it seems to me that there's a certain phenomenon that exists when it comes to ditching exes that's almost universally accepted. And perhaps this comment that I found from public forum Quora best sums it up. Now, obviously the comment is super long, but what really pertains to us here is the bolded section you see here. So this person says, I cannot explain it. It's like a mysterious energy that when you genuinely pull out, the other person comes back into your life. No, I'm not a big believer in mysterious energies, but I can tell you that I've heard about this phenomenon so many times from our own clients that there's something going on. And to prove that, I basically pulled up comments from our private Facebook support group to illustrate the point that this is happening. So this person says, exes always come back one way or another. All my exes have come back, even the ones that have ended badly, just have to continue to be ungettable. This person says, despite the current answers, we can't tell you a definitive yes or no. All situations are different. Usually, yes, they will come back, but not right away. And then my personal favorite is this one. You want them back? Get over them. Focus on you. The second you actually quit caring, and I mean literally, not faking it, this is when they come back. So what is the deal with this phenomenon where you ditch your ex for good and then suddenly they want to come back into your life? Well, today, we're going to peel back the layers of that phenomenon and try to understand what's really going on that makes exes come back when you've ditched them. Now, in my opinion, it really boils down to a combination of 4 distinct things. And like always, I'm going to talk about these 4 things in depth so you have a full understanding of what's creating this cocktail of success. So let's first start with thing number 1, time. And for this one, I really want to cite my knowledge of avoidance. Now, if you actually look at this poll done on December 23rd of 2020 from our private Facebook support group, I simply asked these people, hey, what type of attachment style would you classify your ex as having? Well, as you can see, the vast majority of people believe that their exes are avoidant. But avoidants are interesting in the fact that they tend to romanticize past relationships given enough time. So according to freetoattach.com, one of my favorite avoidant resources, avoidants are free to long for an ex once that person is unavailable out of a relationship and typically out of context, so they are untouched by the actual engagement and their deactivation systems aren't triggered. So once enough time goes by, an avoidant can literally begin to tap into nostalgia. But I think there's actually something deeper at play here than just give your ex enough time. Eventually they'll have nostalgic feelings about you. I mean, it can't be as simple as go through a breakup, wait for the nostalgia to kick in, wait for your ex to come back. I think the reason why we're seeing time work so well is that it gives your ex an opportunity to reflect on your past relationship. And this might only hold true for relationships that were particularly fulfilling for your ex, but imagine a situation where your ex is reflecting back on the relationship and realize really how good they had it with you. All of a sudden, not only is nostalgia kicking in, but regret as well. And sometimes that regret can be strong enough to cause them to want to reach out and begin to rekindle things with you. And really, this leads us pretty seamlessly to our next discussion point. Thing number 2, difficulty finding an appropriate alternative to match up with. Now, if you've watched any of my videos on YouTube or read any of my articles or listened to any of my podcasts, you'll know that I'm a very big fan of looking at commitment factors and reverse engineering commitment factors to give us insight into why exes are acting the way they're acting. Generally speaking, human beings make commitment decisions based on 6 specific criteria: satisfaction, alternatives, investment, fear of loss, scarcity, and urgency. But I really like to highlight one specific factor right now today, and that is alternatives. So what is alternatives? Well, basically, if your ex is in a relationship with you and at any point of the relationship, they sit there and say, I think I could do better than this person. This is a lot more likely to cause them to break up with you and try to see if they can play the field and find someone else that they think is better. And if you really think about it, this phenomenon is kind of at the heart of every single breakup ever, because what is a breakup if not someone admitting that they think they can do better than you? Ultimately, it's a big thing of grass is greener. They think they can go find someone else, and with that person, the grass is greener on the other side. And here's the thing. At first, it almost always is. And this is the hardest part for people to conceptualize. But think about it like this. I'm an avoidant. I break up with you. Immediately I break up with you because I think I can do better than you. So I enter into a new relationship with someone else. And at first it's great because you are in the midst of the honeymoon period. But the honeymoon period doesn't last forever. And eventually, after it wears off, we get kind of back and regress to the mean average of what it feels like to be in a normal relationship. That's when the true comparisons begin. And you can see why this matches so seamlessly up with time, because after enough time goes by, the honeymoon period could potentially wear off, and then the comparisons begin. In 2013, I wrote an article called The Ungettable Girl. And in it, I make the assertion that every single person, when they're dating, ultimately is going to make a comparison to the last person that they dated. So if I'm dating you, at some point in our relationship, I'm going to compare how I feel with you with how I feel with my previous person that I was in a relationship with. And at first, if you're in the midst of the honeymoon period, your score is always going to outweigh and be better than the person you were previously with. But as time goes on, as you regress to the mean, that's when the true comparisons can begin. And the score is always subject to change. And I think this could partially explain why exes continue to come back later and later in the game. It's because when enough time goes by, they can make an honest comparison to you, and they start realizing, you know, I actually had it really good with that other person that I was with. Of course, one other thing also tends to occur. Thing number 3, your world no longer revolves around them. Now lately I've talked a lot about this concept called the pedestal effect. The quick crash course of the pedestal effect is that everyone has people placed on different pedestals. You can either have someone placed below you on the pedestal, equal to you on the pedestal, or above you on the pedestal. Now essentially the smartest thing that you can do after a breakup is to knock your ex down off the pedestal that you have them placed on. One of the things we've learned through research is just how many of our clients have their exes placed on a pedestal. They look at their ex as if they were the long lost new great love that they have just missed out on, and if they do not get this person back, their entire life will be over. And that's mostly because they have their ex placed on a pedestal, and inherently, whether they admit this to themselves or not, they have an assumption that their ex is better than them, and that's a problem. Because if you think about it, the ex, you're not dealing with a dumb person here. They know you arguably better than most people know you, and they can sense when you have them placed as a hero or a pedestal, or you have them on the top of the mountain, so to speak. And when you're on the top of the mountain, there's only one way to really look, and that's down. So exes who know that you are more in love with them than they are with you will naturally not find you as attractive, but also your value in their eyes goes down. And this is why I keep going on and on about finding something that you care more about than your ex, that you can dedicate your time and energy to, because it really helps you knock the ex down off the pedestal and put you on an even playing field, which can cause them to respect you more and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not sure if I've ever told this story before, but it perfectly illustrates the point I'm about to make. So here it goes. When I was in college, one of my first and early breakups was with a girl who clearly had me on the pedestal. Now, to some people, being on someone else's pedestal might sound amazing. And I think I went into the relationship thinking it would be amazing. Only I found out that it's not. And I think it has to do with the fact that at the time I thought, oh, it'd be really cool to have someone that is kind of catering to your every need, which is kind of a jerk thing to do, but bear with me here. I think the reason I ultimately found that I didn't like it was, generally speaking, when you have someone or you're dating someone who has you placed above them on the pedestal, there's a certain admission that they're making, and they're making that they think that you're out of their league, essentially. And it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because with their actions place you above them on the pedestal, when they believe that you're out of their league, you also believe that you are out of their league. And all of a sudden their value drops, and you start thinking, well, I can do better than this person. And as a result, I felt I could do better than this person. So I broke up with her. Now, when you break up with someone like this, a natural assumption gets formed. So my natural assumption is, after this breakup, she's going to obsess about me, be extremely anxious, beg for me back, etc. You get the idea. Only she didn't. She started moving on. And that one simple act caused me to reassess my assumptions about her. Did she not love me as much as she claimed? Did I mean so little to her? What is going on? So ultimately, the thing I took from the experience was that when you actually spend your time moving on, ditching an ex after the breakup, it actually causes them to gain more respect for you. It causes them to value you more than they maybe potentially did at the outset of the breakup. And of course, one other really cool thing starts happening, and that's thing number 4, jealousy. Now we get into the win-lose part of the breakup, which is kind of a petty thing to talk about, but no one wants to lose a breakup. We all want to win the breakup. And generally speaking, you're considered in the lead if you were the one to break up with the person. After all, I'm the one who broke up with you. I'm the one who said, you're not good enough for me. And it also plays into that pedestal effect, by you breaking up with them, you're basically saying, hey, you're below me on the pedestal now, I'm not so interested in you. And the assumptions begin to get formed. So you're gonna assume the following things. You're gonna assume that your ex is gonna beg for you. You're gonna assume that your ex is gonna cry for you, flail, blow up your phone, show up to your place unannounced, leave sappy breakup posts on social media. Basically, every desperate behavior in the book you think your ex is going to fall victim to. But what if they didn't? What if instead of all that, they simply ditched you? That's not to say that they don't care about you. It's not as easy as that to turn their feelings off, but they start finding other things in their life that give them fulfillment and enjoyment. Instead of begging for you back, they ignore you. Instead of blowing up your social media account with sappy breakup posts, they do fun things, enjoy their life, and post that on social media. What if instead of having the worst time of their life after the breakup, they have the best time of their life after the breakup? It's prone to make your ex jealous because in their mind, they weren't important enough for you to start obsessing over them, to start begging for them back, crying for them, flailing about, doing what is sort of socially acceptable to do in breakup periods. All of a sudden, the narrative changes from, wow, look how great this breakup decision was, to, did I make a mistake breaking up with her? Did they even care about me at all? All of a sudden, they realize that you no longer have them above you on the pedestal. If anything, you are below them or equal to them. And that's how you get value back. So essentially what I'm saying here is that ditching your ex can accomplish 4 very important things after a breakup. Number 1 is allows enough time for them to go by to reflect on the experience they had with you. Number 2 is it allows them to kind of play the field a bit and realize how good they actually did have it with you. It makes them realize that your world no longer revolves around them and potentially has the opportunity of making them jealous when they realize that your world no longer revolves around them. And it's always amusing to me how many people fight this. I mean, logically, they know it, but they don't really understand it because they haven't lived it yet. I mean, it's been proven time and time again that moving on from an ex after a breakup is the smartest thing that you can do if you want to get that ex back. I've shown you real life scenarios of people who actually said that it worked. I've showed you the phenomenon that says it exists. But here's the rub. It can't be faked. And that's the most difficult problem here. So when I first started ex-boyfriend recovery, one of the mistakes that I think I made was allowing this idea of fake it until you make it to become prevalent. It's not going to work. What we found consistently from interviewing people is that it has to be genuine. You actually have to find something that you care about more than your ex if you want them to come back. And the irony is that usually if you are able to do that, you no longer want them back, which also feeds into them wanting to come back. It's the whole ungettable concept. So here's my argument. Be authentic about moving on from your ex, ditch them, and then reap the benefits.